When the mastermind behind the Metal Gear games decided to make his own thing after being released from his work at Konami, no one would have guessed what was to come with the release of Death Stranding that seemed almost pretentiously unusual, with its setting where you play as a post-apocalyptic delivery man that is the only one capable of saving the world. And while this premise sounds not very promising, in this game it just works. Which is due to the fact that after looking past the surface, the game is so much more. Beginning with the atmosphere that can range from cozy while exploring the vast apocalyptic sceneries and nature, to horrific when being surrounded by BTs inside the timefall trying to pull you to the other side. And there was actually a moment very early on in the game where I crossed the first mountain and some music started, and I was like, I get it now. So the variety of sceneries alone can create the first layer of depth by influencing the atmosphere, which is completed by the sound design and music choices. And graphics wise, this game is quite the looker on the PlayStation, and I imagine even more on a powerful PC. But we all know that graphics alone don't make for a great game, so let's take a look at the gameplay, which mainly is about getting Sam and his cargo from point A to point B, which, as I said, isn't as boring as it sounds, because first of all, you can't just get distracted while walking in one direction, which is due to Sam, depending on the amount of cargo or the environment, constantly being at risk of losing his balance and damaging whatever he's transporting. So you often have to keep an eye on his stamina or correct his balance while walking around so he doesn't trip. Making sure to not roll down a mountain like a goat on acid is by far not the only danger to avoid. For one, there are, as always in a post-apocalyptic world, other humans that hunt down porters like yourself for their goods. Those so-called mules will also build camps alongside popular routes, waiting for porters to cross their path and rob them. If you come across one of those camps, you have a few options to deal with them. The easiest one is simply moving around. The more risky variant is to just start running and try to cross the area as fast as possible. And finally, you can decide to fight them, which will then force you, because of human opponents, into a non-lethal approach. We will take a look at the reason for that in the story part of this video later on. So to defeat the mules without killing them, there's actually a lot you may do. Beginning with throwing some good old hands, which knocks down most enemies after landing some good hits. But you will always have to keep an eye on Sam's conscience meter to not get knocked down yourself. In addition to that, if you manage to sneak up to one of them, you can tie them up quietly. Later on in your playthrough, you will come across a growing arsenal of non-lethal tools. Those range from firearms shooting rubber bullets and shock grenades to special tools that shoot ropes to instantly tie up your targets. But cleaning out these mule camps also comes with some advantages. For one, if you defeat all opponents in the camp, it will be gone for a while and you and other porters are able to travel safely. But even better is the loot you can grab from these camps, because most of the time there are a lot of resources, deliveries and tools, and most of the time even data chips. And while all of this is already quite complex in terms of combat, we haven't talked about the main threat yet, the BTs. A BT, or beached thing, is an entity that is quote-unquote stranded between the world of the living and the dead after the Death Stranding happened. They are most of the time accompanied by the timefall that lets anything it affects age rapidly and are only visible to those using a so-called BB or bridge baby. Further, they come in many different sizes, ranging from basic human-shaped BTs to huge boss monsters that often look like animals. But despite the BTs getting stronger and bigger, the longer you play, for me they lost their fear factor. And instead, while the boss fights were epic and impressive, the standard BTs became an annoyance rather than a challenge. Which for one is because you don't really get anything of value for defeating BTs. On the other hand, your growing arsenal makes it really easy to get rid of them. So while you have to try to sneak around in the beginning and have concentrated body fluids of Sam to defend yourself at max, but get semi-automatic anti-BT rocket launchers in the end, that development in atmosphere comes naturally, I think. And the game does not only try to throw a stick between your legs. Instead, you, again, get a growing arsenal of tools and structures to make traversing much more comfortable. Those range from personal things like ropes, ladders, or exoskeletons and repair sprays to counter the timefall, to huge structures like bridges, roads, or shelters. Further, as long as you don't have to cross steep mountains, you can even drive trucks or bikes through the world. On top of that, when you connect certain hub points to the so-called Chiral network, you gain access to the structures of other players in the area of that hub. Now, before we end the gameplay section, I at least want to mention the resource management, because everything of equipment in the game is crafted using said resources. But while that is the case, I never felt the need to go outside to look for some, and even if I found a container or something, I just donated it most of the time, because I never ran into a situation where I did not have more than enough to get my desired equipment. So, Before we come to the story part, I want to give you the chance to skip to the timestamp shown on the screen right now. With that out of the way, the game begins with our protagonist Sam falling off his bike and losing his cargo. He then seeks shelter from the timefall in a nearby cave, where he encounters a blonde woman. After the rain comes to an end, Sam picks up his lost cargo and heads towards his destination, the first city. Following his successful delivery, he immediately gets tasked with accompanying a crew that is tasked with cremating a body in order to prevent a so-called void out. That, if not being prevented, would be as healthy to the region as detonating a nuke in the middle of the city. So he agrees and accompanies the guys in that truck, but on their way, they get attacked by BTs and the worst case scenario takes place as a void out is triggered. But instead of dying in the disaster, Sam finds himself in an out-of-body experience at the bottom of an ocean. Here, we learn that Sam can't die through BTs and instead his body works like a poison for BTs themselves, which will get used for making weapons with his body fluids throughout the game. After coming back to his senses, Sam finds himself inside a room chained to a bed with a handcuff-like device. Here, we get introduced to Deadman, who explains the situation and the function of the so-called cufflink, which is then followed by another and this time much more personal task, the delivery of morphine to Sam's adoptive mother, the President of the United Cities of America. Inside, we get to know that the President is suffering from cancer and already in very bad condition. After her final request to find his sister Emily and save the UCA, Sam bears witness to her death. Despite all that, Sam is still sticking to his opinion to not join and help rebuild the UCA and prepares to leave them behind again. Which is until he is contacted by Emily herself, who asks him to help them and save her herself. Which is then enough to make Sam change his mind due to her being pretty much the only one he trusts and really cares about. This is made even clearer by her being the only one able to touch him without his fear of touch triggering, that even made him uncomfortable when his passing mother touched him. Now on his quest to reconnect the country, we get formally introduced to Fragile, the woman from the beginning. As it turns out, she owns an independent courier service named after herself, and she got framed for a terrorist attack that she risked her life for to prevent, after being forced to run through timefall with no protection besides a mask on her face. Further, she has the ability to travel through beaches and send people there, which she offers to lend Sam for his help, which from that point on mostly functions as this game's version of quick travel between already connected settlements. Following that, Sam comes across a timefall anomaly that transports him to a beach representing a battlefield of the World War I era. Here the confused Sam experiences his first encounter with the combat veteran Unger and his undead army. After defeating them in a fight, he is transported back to the quote-unquote real world. But when he asks what just happened, his allies tell him that all the time he spent on the other side were just seconds for them, raising his confusion about the man he saw in his visions while connected to the BT and now that mysterious beach. When things settle down a bit, Sam makes his way towards the workshop of a skilled mechanic called Mama. As soon as Sam sets a foot inside, his BB senses a BT. But Mama immediately calms the situation by revealing that the BT is or was her baby that died when a terrorist attack caused the hospital to collapse while she gave birth. So she now hides inside her workshop because she can't bring herself to cut their connection. When Mama tells Sam she can't help him with the Cupid alone and he needs to talk to her twin sister Lochner, he heads there immediately. But due to Lochner not wanting to be associated with the UCA, Sam has to return empty-handed. Hearing that, Mama makes a decision for the sake of the future of mankind and decides to finally let her baby travel to the other side and to ask Sam to bring her to her sister so she can talk to her herself. When the two arrive at the destination, Mama passes away and it's revealed that not only did she keep her baby alive, their connection kept her alive as well. But Mama did not vanish entirely, because apparently she is still connected to our world through her twin sister. Said sister now agrees to join the UCL and help Sam. But before he leaves, she warns him that someone seems to have manipulated the Cupid's code. Following that, Sam's BT is having a malfunction that can lead to its death. So Deadman takes BB into his care for a while in order to reset it, and Sam and him part ways for a while. When the men are about to reunite in a cabin on a mountain, another timefall storm hits the two, transporting them to another battlefield, this time of the World War II era. After a moment to orient himself, Sam contacts Deadman and the two meet up at Deadman's hiding spot in the sewers. Here, Sam is finally reunited with BB and makes his way to confront Unger and get the three out of the anomaly again. He manages to do so after defeating the man and his skeleton soldiers. Back in the world of the living, Sam has no time to catch his breath. as he is sent to meet up with Hartman, a scientist that artificially stops and restarts his heart in a 21-minute loop to look for his family on the beach. He reveals his theory that any mass extinction in the past was also caused by a death stranding. He underlines his theory by evidence he found by studying fossils of said times. Further, he hints to Sam that his adoptive mother is behind the BB research program. With that pile of new information in the bag, Sam arrives in Edgenorth City, where he is confronted by Higgs, who turns out to be the man with the golden mask that watched from a distance in some situations throughout the story, and also happens to be the terrorist that framed Fragile. After more than one tough battle, including one against a giant BT, Higgs still manages to kidnap Emily and flee. But Bridges offers to help us find him and jump to the beach he is hiding at, under the condition that we capture him alive and let her have his revenge. At said beach, another boss fight takes place that ends with an oddly satisfying hand-to-hand combat minigame before Higgs is ultimately defeated and handed over to Fragile. But instead of a happy ending, another revelation follows and we get to know Emily's true identity. As it turns out, she's an extinction entity that will be the cause of the next Death Stranding and reset the population. Sam and the others are determined to stop her, but before that plan can get into shape, Sam, after another battle in the Vietnam War era, relives Unger's final memories. Here, it is revealed that the former president's right hand, Die Hartman, served under Unger in the military and owes him his life according to himself. Further, he helped Unger trying to escape with his baby from the BB research facility, but his escape goes horribly wrong and the severely injured Unger ends up being executed by Die Hartman after a direct order from the president. And this is not the most significant plot point in the scene, because as it turns out, the flashbacks were not loose memories, they were his own, triggered by the connection with the BB, and Sam is actually Unger's son. Despite these revelations, Sam once again has no time to lose, as him and the others need to come up with a plan to stop Amelie. Due to their past connection, still conflicted Sam decides to confront her himself, even though he might not be able to return, even if he ends up being successful. After arriving at Amelie's beach with the help of Fragile, Amelie begins to tell him everything about her existence. That she is not Bridges' daughter, and instead the half of her existence that stayed on the beach. Further, she tells him that her existence caused several death strandings in the past, which aligns with Deadman's theories. Sam tells her that he believes her life is still worth saving, despite her existence going to cause the inevitable end of civilization. Touched by his words, Amelie decides to devote her existence to delaying the extinction as long as possible and leaves Sam on the beach. After a moment to let everything sink in, he is brought back to the world of the living by the combined efforts of his allies. Here, after a time skip, Die Hartman is elected as the new president of the UCA, but Sam, not thinking very highly of the man that killed his father, left the ceremony early. When he is stopped by the new president himself, he confronts him about it. Die Hartman expresses his regret for what happened, causing him to cry. Following this, Sam is sent on a final mission to incinerate his dying BB, but instead of following through, he opens Lou's tank and leaves the UCA behind once and for all. Now first of all, welcome back to everyone skipping the story part. While the game's premise seems boring on the surface, the deeper you dive into the world, the more it will give back to you. Long walks and climbing sections can feel drawn out, but will often be rewarded with beautiful sceneries or interesting plot points. And while some encounters might feel unnecessary, the epic boss fights, especially later on, made more than up for that in the long run. And with a story and plot that never stopped getting better until the credits rolled, I can say that I'm glad that I gave this unusual experience a chance.